tragic murder to attack him politically.
He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned.
Plus, one conservative says the Reiner response shows why more of Trump's supporters are leaving him. But a new report suggests he's not listening. Also, another potential misstep from FBI Director Kash Patel as a manhunt starts over for the Brown University shooter. And
Fentanyl is a weapon of mass destruction.
is the president's declaration a sign he's preparing to strike more than just votes? Live at the table, Scott Jennings, Bakari Sellers, Anna Navarro, Arthur Aidala, and Ellie Honig. Americans with different perspectives are talking to each other, but here they do. Good evening to you. I'm Sarah Seidner in New York, in for Abby Phillip. Let's get right to what Americans are talking about. Compassion, empathy, the moral high ground, all have fallen victim to Donald Trump's presidencies. But tonight, we're seeing a new low after the deaths of Hollywood icon Rob Reiner and his wife, producer Michelle Singer Reiner. The couple's son, Nick, is now in police custody, both on suspicion of murder. Nick has spoken publicly about struggling with addiction, going to rehab, and experiencing homelessness. Tonight, as tributes and condolences continue to pour in for the Reiners, let me use this moment to mock Reiner's death, saying he had Trump derangement syndrome. And when asked about his comment today, the president doubled down.
I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person.
Doubled down.
I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all in any way, shape, or form.
Not just Democrats, but some conservatives are criticizing Trump's response. Evangelical Russell Moore called the comments vile and disgusting. Marjorie Taylor Greene called the deaths a family tragedy and said it's not about politics. And here's what Senator John Kennedy said Trump should have done instead.
A wise man once said nothing. Why? Because he's a wise man. I think President Trump should have said nothing.
All right, we've got a great group that are here. Let's start with you. When it comes to that comment you just heard there, a wise man says nothing. It's that old adage, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Is that what should have happened with President Trump?
I was 9, 10, 11 years old where my grandfather, whom I'm named after, Aidala, taught me that lesson. I was being critical about someone or something, and he was like, hey, Artie, you know what? You know what really nice to say? Just don't say anything at all. And I believe that's what the president did when the vice president, Dick Cheney, died. I think he didn't really acknowledge it whatsoever, and I think that would have been the wise choice here. And even if he did, if he couldn't help himself but say something critical, you have to say, look, I never liked Rob Reiner. We never got along. He was so overly critical of me. But what happened to him and his family was so horrific and so tragic that the nation should pray for them.
But why doesn't the president rise to the occasion? When it comes to these sorts of things, we see kind of over and over again, his responses are often less than humane.
Well, I agree with Arthur. I think he should have said nothing. Look, I'm not surprised that Donald Trump didn't have anything nice to say about Mr. Reiner. Reiner was one of his most vocal critics and did for basically a decade, said he should be in prison, called him a fascist, et cetera, et cetera. But the correct answer here, and the advice I would have given, is just put it in your pocket. You're allowed to harbor opinions and feelings about people, but in this particular case, someone was tragically murdered. Look, we just, as conservatives, we just rolled out one of the most horrific things that have happened to our movement, which is the murder of Charlie Kirk. And I have been very critical of everybody who celebrated that murder, the thousands and thousands of liberals who celebrated that. They shouldn't have done that either. And so, in this particular case, putting it in your pocket would have been that.
The thing is, Rob Reiner did not celebrate Charlie's murder.
Yeah.
He condemned it very vocally. So yes, on one hand, he's done more than just criticize Donald Trump. He's raised millions and millions and millions of dollars to make sure Trump didn't become president. However, when Charlie was executed, Rob Reiner came out forcefully and said, I don't care what it is, politics is, this
And I would suggest that the office of President of the United States comes with a higher bar and a certain duty. Um, and if you can't exercise the duty, then just shut up. Keep your mouth shut and keep Rob Reiner's name out of your mouth, particularly today. But what happened to that family is really an unspeakable tragedy. It's so hard for me to wrap my arms around. And there are millions of American families who are dealing with children with mental illness and drug addiction. And as a family, my own family that has suffered from the consequences of drug addiction, I can tell you that the biggest fear of any parent, and they can be very good parents who don't give up on their child and who love that child, but can't save the child no matter how many times you send them to rehab, no matter how many times you send them, no matter what pills they're on, no matter you sometimes you just can't reach a kid. And the biggest terror of one of those parents is that that child will hurt themselves or hurt somebody else, much less somebody in the family. So what is happening to this American family is tragic. And for Donald Trump to use the occasion, not to rise to the occasion, but to lower himself to a level that I can't even imagine and attack Rob Reiner and say his death was caused by his criticism of Trump is disgusting and condemnable and unacceptable. And I am glad that both of you are saying that it was the wrong thing to do because we cannot normalize this level of cruelty and stupidity by Donald Trump.
But it is normalized, and I think that
No, it's not.
maybe that is my youthful,
Trump.
but it is normalized, and I think that
No, it's not.
maybe that is my youthful naivete, or maybe that is my pessimism that Donald Trump has bestowed upon this country, but he's never risen to the level of the office when we have this moment. He's never been there when the country needed him to bridge a gap or divide. I recall during the Mother Emanuel shooting when Barack Obama sang Amazing Grace, how the country was just full, even just the pendency of that song was able to just talk about that issue of race and come together in a tone and tenor that hadn't been done before. I remember George W. Bush after 9/11 and those type of tragic events. He was there. I mean, you remember the ball game, those type of things. Donald Trump doesn't have that capability.
He tried at the Charlie Kirk memorial when he hugged his wife and he made some
Respectfully, though,
he
respectfully,
tried.
Do you remember the Charlie Kirk memorial? He said he wasn't.
I
He
would
said
say
he disagreed with forgiving.
I will tell you this, the bar for Donald Trump is in there, right? That's where our expectations are for him. And for somebody to simply say that the President of the United States, when somebody dies in the fashion that they did, should just be quiet, we need to all look at ourselves and say that is the standard that we hold for the President of the United States? That this man that is 80 years old is incapable of actually having empathy? This man who's 80 years old is incapable of being an example for our children, regardless of Democrat or Republican? And the bigger condemnation I have is for those individuals who call themselves evangelical Christians who surround the President of the United States, but then look at this type of nonsense and turn a blind eye to it. He has a prayer council. They lay hands on him. With what? Gloves? Mittens? I mean, that ain't getting through. I mean, who are they praying to? And so I have a great deal of disdain for, and listen, there are people who will say, I love Donald Trump's policies, I hate the man that he is. That is just a very, very weird paradigm that I'm not sure I can find myself in.
I have two issues with the statement, right? Certainly, silence would have been vastly preferable to this. But number one, just the sheer and utter soullessness of the statement. How long was it between the actual murder and the statement? 7 hours? 6 hours? I mean, not even a moment of breath and grace. But number two, as Anna referred to, the statement spreads misinformation. It suggests that the cause of the murder was something about politics or Rob Reiner's view of Donald Trump. That is dangerous. We see how quickly the tiniest little flicker can cause conspiracy theories and inaccurate information to take off. It's irresponsible of him to do that. And I'm actually surprised. It could have been an opportunity for Donald Trump to say, look what narcotics do to families. This is one of his number one issues. Why he's doing what he's doing with Venezuelan votes, right? I mean, he could have said, you see what these drugs do to these families. It's horrible. My blessings, my prayers are with them. Yes.
Definitely a missed opportunity on the level, and I didn't think about your level, but on the level of what Anna is saying, he could have risen to the occasion and just said, putting all the politics aside, this was an absolute American tragedy. I have sons. It's unimaginable, and let's all say a prayer and hug each other, hold each other's hands at the prayer.
And think of this family today. Think about a daughter who walked into that house and found her parents.
And not another son as well.
I just, given what we just lived through with Charlie, I mean, every conservative that I know is still very much processing this. And
I'm going to stop you there because I want to play some of the reaction to when Charlie Kirk was killed. Here's sort of just a smattering of what was said from mostly from the public.
Over the last 11 days, we have heard stories of commentators, influencers, and others in our society who greeted his assassination with sick approval, excuses, or even jubilation.
The man wasn't even buried yet, and Democrat members of Congress were denigrating his memory. Many Democrats in elective office have now been totally captured by a radical fringe of the far-left base who want to dehumanize every person they disagree with. We must continue to call this wickedness out.
Some of the very same people who spent the last 8 years trying to sit in moral judgment of anyone who disagreed with them about politics suddenly started cheering for a murder.
The hypocrisy that you hear there, right? You hear them talking about the left doing this. And then the statement, how do you square those two things?
I don't. I disagree with the statement. I wish he hadn't made it. And as I mentioned, what happened after Charlie died, lots of people were quick to celebrate the death, call him racist, call him Nazi, attribute statements to him that he never made, et cetera, et cetera. And those of us on the right who knew Charlie and loved Charlie, were quick to pull that out and say, this is misinformation. This is a heinous way to treat someone who left behind a grieving widow and their children. So I don't swear it. Because conservatives, we're still processing that. And if we want to expect other people to live up to a standard that they didn't live up to after Charlie, we should.
Scott, this is more than just other people, right? And I agree with you. Anybody who celebrated after Trump got shot, shame on them. Anybody who celebrated after Charlie Kirk got murdered, shame on them. But I refuse to hold some trolls on the internet or some, influencers or fringe people, whomever they are, whomever they are.
Well, it was elected officials,
Okay,
members of Congress, very important.
I will not hold him to the same bar that I hold the President of the United States. I think, he's got the biggest bully pulpit. And as anybody who's ever been attacked by Donald Trump knows, once he attacks, it gives permission to so many others that hang on his every word to do the same thing. And it hurts my heart to think about Romy Reiner and Jake Reiner, the siblings who are the victims also of this crime, and what's going to befall them from social media because of what Trump just did. It's just irresponsible and horrible.
The fascinating part about this conversation, though, is that if Trump is one thing, he is consistent. And I've always told people that Trump has, I've always referred to Trump as one of the most honest brokers we have in politics. He told us exactly what he was going to do when he was running for president. He's executing on those plans. But even when he came down the escalator in 2025, we had 2015. I'm in a time warp. 2015. The essence of one. I think the quote is, "Character is who you are when no one's watching." Right. The essence of Donald Trump's character has never been in question. People who worked with him, people who contracted him, people who rented from him, people who knew him from back in New York, people who he denigrated Ted Cruz's wife. He called her ugly, right? Like, he created nicknames for people on the stage, and he was running for president of the United States. That what we have done in this country, Democrats, Republicans, and even more importantly, the mainstream media, I hope people hear that, even more importantly, the mainstream media, is we have created a bottomless pit of character for the people that we elect to high office in this country.
All right, I'm going to put a pause in that with that last thought because many conservatives are saying behavior like this is starting to have a real effect on Trump's base. And one pollster who briefed him says he's not listening. Plus, more on our breaking news, an urgent manhunt for the Brown